Hey friends, Sheree here. Welcome to the channel, Cooking at Home with Sheree. In today's video, I'm going to share how I preserve this huge box of onions that I picked up from Azure Standard. I'm going to get them all chopped and we're going to start preserving. Alright, so the onions are chopped. These 4 trays are holding 7 of the onions. They were pretty big onions. And so, yeah, I already have the freeze dryer on. You might hear it in the background. It's cooled down, so I'm just gonna slide these 4 trays into the machine and get this started. And then I'll be back to show you what they look like tomorrow. This will run, overnight. And then in the morning, they'll be ready for me to take out of the freeze dryer, and I'll show you what they look like. All these onion scraps, I'm gonna peel the sticker off, and those are all gonna go into my compost bin, my indoor compost bin. And I saved the 7 onion bottoms because I'm gonna just put these in soil. I've seen people regrow like green onions by replanting the root part, and so I'm gonna just play around with that to see. I did start some different kinds of green onions for my indoor garden, but you can never have too many of those. And if they grow well, they'll get transplanted outside. All right, and here are the onions fresh out of the freeze dryer. Like I said, it ran overnight. And then I just, the machine alerts you when it is done and ready. You can actually check it to make sure things are really dry. If you need to add more time, I've gotten to the point where I have cycles programmed in based on what I am freeze drying, and because I've done it before, and I just take notes of how long it took, and then the next time I do a batch of those things, I run that cycle. And so I'm gonna get some of these put into a jar, just whole, or just as is. Get that marked and dated. Then I'm gonna take some, I'm gonna grind them up so I can have some freeze-dried onion powder ready for cooking. Then the rest are gonna get put away in Mylar bags. Okay, and so here are the freeze-dried onions, the 4 trays put away. I have a jar, just in a glass mason jar. This is gonna go in my pantry. This is gonna go in my kitchen pantry. I did grind some in my spice grinder, and this is all powdered, free flowing. I put together 3 of these smaller containers. This is about a cup each. And again, always make sure you're labeling and dating. I also put the source of my food when I'm freeze drying in case there's any kind of recalls coming. I can look through and see if that's something I have on my shelf. And then I have 3 of these larger bags. Okay. And I'm gonna weigh these before I put them away, just to label on there so I have a feeling for how much is in there. And so I'll open these up. These all will need to get, I have the little oxygen absorbers inside. These I'm gonna go and seal them all with my little heat press thing to seal the bags. I'll use these first. This will be something that I'll pull after I use up what's in the big jar. Say if I wanna make a pot of soup, or if I wanna grind some more for powder, I'll pull the smaller bags first, and then I'll work my way through the larger bags. So these larger bags, I could take one, refill this larger jar, and grind some, for example. So that's why I put them away in different size bags. These also are for longer term storage because there's no clear side. These are the full Mylar. So if I wanted to put these in an emergency bucket or something like that, or give them to someone for their long-term storage, these will last longer than these, possibly because that is letting light in. But depending on how you store them, my pantry, where I keep things, my non-kitchen pantry, so the longer term storage stuff, there's usually the light is not on in there. The light goes on when I need to go get something, and the light is back off, so I don't worry too much about that. But these bags are waterproof, and some of them are light proof if they have the Mylar on both sides. Okay? Okay, friends, so I am back preserving more of those onions. I have filled the dehydrator. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trays of just diced onions in my dehydrator. And I'm gonna get these going. And then I also put 4 more trays in the freeze dryer. So I have 2 more trays of the yellow onions that I just showed you earlier in the video. And then I put in 2 trays of the red onions as well. So I'll show you what those look like when they come out. But yeah, the kitchen is smelling very delicious. Now, I love the smell of onions, so, but I am doing this during the daytime when hubby's at work because, you know, it's a lot. All right, let me get this turned on. My dehydrator has a little guide. I just follow the drying guide. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so here are the onions fresh out of the freeze dryer. They they smell so good. And then I turned off the dehydrator because it was a little loud, but I'll show you the state of the dehydrated onions. They still need some more time. And so this is what the dehydrator onions are looking like. They're getting pretty close, but I want to make sure that they are really dry. I already nibbled on a couple. They're so good. But we're gonna let those go for a few more hours and then check again. With both the freeze drying and the dehydrating, you have to really be sure that you're getting the moisture out before you store your food. And you do also need to make sure you're putting in the oxygen absorbers. I don't know if I've shown those throughout, but you know, you put your oxygen absorbers into your bag before you vacuum seal them, or your jars before you close them up, because you want to make sure that you are not creating an environment where your food then spoils later. And worst case, you get sick. Still bad, but not as worse. You've wasted your food and your time, but you don't want any of those things to happen. So make sure you get a book, you read, you take your notes, and you follow, authoritative voices in these matters. You don't want to make yourself sick, and you do not want to waste your hard-earned time and your hard-earned money, all right? All right, I'm gonna get my food sealed up. I don't need to keep any more of the yellow onions out because, as I showed you, I've already powdered some, so those are definitely going to go straight into the Mylar bags for future use. I have some red onions that I did before, so I'm going to actually powder. I'm going to take some of those out, powder it. I'm going to powder some of these just to see if there's a difference in the freshness and the taste, and then I'm going to seal up the rest of these as well. Here's the onion powder. It's a little hard to tell. It's not quite as white, obviously, as the white one. It's a little light purpley gray. I'm going to transfer that to a jar, and I'll show you what they look like side by side. Okay, so here's the freeze-dried white onion. And then next to it is the freeze-dried purple onion, both of them ground up. And, these are the things I showed you before. With the freeze-dried white onion, the first round. Here's the second round, that's 2 trays. And then here is what I just showed you, 2 trays of the red onion. So like I said, I have more of the red onion that I did my last time. I got some onions from Azure, so I'm gonna pull those out and get those ground up to fill up this jar. And yeah, I'll have these 2 out to use, and then this will go into the kitchen pantry. These are all gonna go down into my long-term storage pantry. All right, I'm gonna move on to my next way of preserving onions. All right, friends, so here are the dehydrated onions course, I already snacked on some. They are yummy. So I'm gonna get these into a jar with an oxygen absorber and get it vacuum sealed. I'll be ready for the storage, for the kitchen pantry rather. And these I plan to use, I can toss these into soups. I can toss these on top of salads for like a little crunch. I can grind it up into more onion powder. These do have a little bit different taste than the freeze-dried ones because you're not really cooking them, but they taste a little bit more like a cooked onion, where the freeze-dried onion to me tastes more like a raw onion, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Okay, so I got 4 large jars of the dehydrated onions. I decided to put all my dehydrated onions in these glass jars, and they're going to go into the kitchen pantry. So these are not for like long-term years storage, right? That's what my freeze-dried onions are for. So again, these will be just added as salad toppers, just to snack on, added into soups and things like that. And just for comparison's sake, here is the freeze-dried onion versus the dehydrated onion. The final way that I preserved onions is through pressure canning, and I decided to record that as a separate video, so you'll see that soon. All right, so here are all the different preserved onions. I still have to get these bags sealed quickly, and then they will get put away in my long-term storage. I have to create some labels. I'm going to print out some labels to adhere to the fronts of these glass jars. So when I go into my kitchen pantry, the label is visible from the front. So remember, this is the powdered red onion. This is the powdered white onion. Both of these were freeze-dried. This is the freeze-dried onion. These are the dehydrated onions, and you know, I will need to burp these jars if I don't vacuum seal them. I'm probably going to leave one just open, and the other I'll probably vacuum seal. But I'll burp those just to make sure that they are really dry. But you can hear, you want to, your dehydrated food needs to sound really dry. Even your freeze-dried food, right? It should sound, the food should sound dry, okay? So make sure of that. And of course, I have the oxygen absorbers in all of these Mylar bags, as well as in the jars. And then I have 8 pints of pressure canned onions, and these are just pressure canned with water and a little bit of salt, high quality salt. And so that's it. This is how I preserved I would say I did about half of that box of onions plus a few of the red onions. And so I still have a lot of fresh onions that I will continue to cook with throughout the month. And then I probably will get another box of red onions and white onions in March if I do an order, or in April. Because I have some other things that I want to do with the onions. I will be growing my own onions in my garden as well, but I have a lot of plans for those onions in some canning projects with some of the other vegetables that I'm growing. But if you want to hear more about me growing onions, harvesting onions, you need to go over and subscribe to my gardening channel, Gardening at Home with Sheree. All right, that's it for today. I'll see you guys back here on the channel again very soon. Take good care. Bye.